The story begins in 1974. Lynbrook Prison was considered one of the most secure prisons in America at the time. It was a maximum security facility for men only, housing some of the most dangerous criminals the country had ever seen. The prison was built to be inescapable, with thick steel doors and walls, and armed guards patrolling the grounds at all times. But despite its best efforts, Lynbrook would soon gain a reputation for being haunted. Inmates began reporting strange occurrences throughout the prison. Some claimed to have seen apparitions of people who had died inside the prison walls, while others reported hearing disembodied voices or footsteps in the dead of night. As time went on, these stories only grew, leading many to believe that Lynbrook was indeed haunted. One of the most famous cases of hauntings at Lynbrook Prison was that of an inmate named Benny. Benny was serving a life sentence for murder when he began experiencing strange phenomena in his cell. He claimed to have seen the ghost of a young woman who had been murdered inside the prison by an inmate. According to Benny, the ghost appeared to him every night at precisely 3 a.m., walking up and down the cell block and whispering his name. At first, Benny dismissed these sightings as figments of his imagination, but as they continued, he became increasingly frightened. He reported the sightings to the prison guards, but they were skeptical and assumed that Benny was making it all up to get out of his cell. Eventually, Benny's fear got the better of him, and he began to beg the guards to transfer him to a different prison. However, his request was denied, and Benny was forced to stay in his cell with the ghost. Another inmate, Carl, claimed that he had seen the ghost of a guard who had been killed during a riot. Carl said that the ghost appeared to him in the prison yard, standing over his body and shaking his head in disapproval. Like Benny, Carl reported the sighting to the guards, but they did not believe him and threatened to punish him if he made up any more stories. Carl decided to keep quiet, and he was eventually transferred to another prison. These are just 2 of the many stories of hauntings at Lynbrook Prison. Other inmates have reported seeing apparitions of other prisoners who have died inside the prison walls. Some have heard disembodied voices or footsteps in the middle of the night, and others have felt a cold, eerie presence in their cells. Many of these sightings have been attributed to the prison's most infamous ghost, a young woman who was allegedly murdered by an inmate. Her name was Mary, and she is said to appear to those who enter the prison seeking revenge for her untimely death. But the story doesn't end there. There have also been reports of unexplained phenomena occurring at the prison that cannot be attributed to any single ghost. For example, some visitors have reported hearing disembodied voices speaking in languages they do not understand. Others have felt sudden drops in temperature or the sensation of being touched by an invisible force. In extreme cases, some have even seen apparitions of Mary standing over them as they sleep, whispering threats in their ear. Some people have tried to explain away these experiences as mere tricks of the mind, attributing them to stress, anxiety, or a lack of sleep. However, there are many who believe that Lynbrook Prison is truly haunted, and that the spirits of those who have died within its walls are seeking peace, or perhaps revenge. It should be noted that Lynbrook Prison has never officially acknowledged any paranormal activity on site, and no investigations have been conducted to verify these claims. Regardless of whether or not Lynbrook is actually haunted, the stories surrounding the prison make for an interesting and chilling tale. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying that the stories of hauntings at Lynbrook Prison are sure to give you nightmares. As the years passed, the stories only grew more intense. Prisoners began coming forward with tales of eerie encounters that left them shaken to their core. One such encounter involved a prisoner named Thomas, who claimed to have witnessed the ghost of a former inmate who had been executed in the prison's gas chamber. According to Thomas, he was writing in his cell one night when he heard a knock on the door. Assuming it was the guards, he called out for them to enter. But when the door opened, no one was there. He then noticed the apparition of a man standing in the doorway, and as he approached closer, he could see that it was the ghost of a former inmate who had been executed in the prison's gas chamber. The ghost then disappeared, and Thomas was left in his cell trembling with fear. These stories spread throughout the prison like wildfire. leaving many inmates questioning what secrets lay within Lynbrook's dark walls. Despite the unsettling tales, prison officials chose to ignore them, assuming that they were nothing more than the ramblings of desperate men. However, as the number of sightings increased, so did the tension among the staff. Even the most skeptical guards began to question what they were witnessing with their own eyes. One night, a new guard named David was patrolling the prison yard when he saw something that made him stop in his tracks. Standing in front of him was the ghost of an inmate who had been hanged in the prison yard decades ago. The ghost was transparent and emaciated, his body still bearing the marks of the noose around his neck. David tried to shake off what he had seen, but the image of the ghost stuck in his mind. He began to experience strange occurrences in the guard tower, such as footsteps, disembodied voices, and objects moving on their own. He tried to dismiss them as tricks of his imagination, but deep down he knew that he was witnessing something truly paranormal. As the weeks passed, David became increasingly disturbed by the activity in the prison yard. He started to feel watched and sensed a malevolent presence behind him at all times. He tried to confide in his fellow guards, but they either laughed at him or told him to keep quiet. Feeling isolated and terrified, David decided to take matters into his own hands. He began investigating the prison's history and learned about the inmates who had been executed in the yard. He also discovered that the ghost he had seen was that of a man named James, who had been wrongfully convicted and hanged in the 1940s. Armed with this knowledge, David decided to confront James's ghost and put his restless spirit to rest. With the help of a local priest, David performed an exorcism in the prison yard, banishing James's ghost back to wherever it came from. The strange activity in the prison yard ceased, and David's terror finally came to an end. However, little did he know that this was just the beginning of the paranormal activity at Lynbrook Prison. In the years that followed, new inmates and staff members came forward with their own tales of hauntings and demonic presences. Each story added to the legend of Lynbrook, cementing its reputation as one of the most haunted prisons in America. Despite the countless stories of paranormal activity, prison officials refused to acknowledge the haunting. They dismissed the inmates' tales as nothing more than prison fantasies and continued to run Lynbrook as a maximum security facility. This led to a tragic incident that shook the prison to its core. One night, an inmate named Michael was writing alone in his cell when he began to experience a strange sensation. The air grew cold, and a pressure seemed to build within the walls. Suddenly, he heard a voice whisper his name, and he turned to see the ghost of an emaciated man standing in the corner of his cell. Michael was terrified, but before he could react, the ghost lunged towards him, piercing his throat with his finger-like nails. Michael screamed for help, but his cries were ignored as the ghost drained the life out of him. By morning, Michael was found dead in his cell, his body drained of all color and his eyes wide with terror. This horrific incident finally forced prison officials to take action. They brought in a team of paranormal investigators to examine Lynbrook and determine once and for all whether it was haunted. What they discovered was beyond their wildest imaginations. As the investigation progressed, the team uncovered a dark secret that had been buried for decades. Lynbrook Prison was built on the site of an ancient burial ground, and the spirits of those buried there refused to rest in peace. The team also discovered that the prison had been constructed using materials from the demolished Eastern State Penitentiary, which was known for its inhumane treatment of prisoners and for being haunted by the spirits of those who suffered there. These findings explained the high level of paranormal activity at Lynbrook and the evil that permeated its walls. With this knowledge, the paranormal investigators worked tirelessly to cleanse the prison of its evil and lay the restless spirits to rest. Using ancient rituals and prayers, they banished the demons from Lynbrook, freeing the innocent souls trapped there. As the ceremony came to an end, the spirits of those buried beneath the prison were finally able to move on, bringing peace to Lynbrook after centuries of torment. However, the story doesn't end there. Rumors persist that the hauntings at Lynbrook Prison never truly ended. Some say that the spirits of those executed in the prison yard still linger there, along with the shadows of inmates who died under mysterious circumstances. While the paranormal investigators may have succeeded in laying some of the spirits to rest, there are still those who believe that Lynbrook Prison remains a haunted place, forever tainted by the darkness of its past. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more terrifying tales of hauntings and horror. And if you dare, leave a comment below with your own experiences of paranormal activity. Who knows, you might just be the next person to share your story on our channel. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button now and join us in exploring the darkest corners of our world.